So my journey with Unity teachings has been multifaceted, but books have always been a staple in my spiritual practice. Reverend Cathy and our very own Noelle Nelson have co-written such a book, so inspiring. It's called Sermon on the Molehill. In reading it, I found new teachings and understandings of what unity stands for and how the philosophy and practices can enrich your life. And for that reason, I have invited Noelle to join us, and we're going to look at some of the lessons that are in this book to bring them to you. So let's welcome Noelle Nelson. Do you have a sharing the mic? Do you have a mic? Right here. Yeah.
John to the rescue.
All right. Well, hello. This is such a treat. I'm excited. This is such a fabulous book. But I want to start with you. Right? I just told a little bit of my story. I'm curious about what brought you to Unity.
Well, I had been on a spiritual journey since my 20s, so I've been through a myriad of experiences such as your father probably had. And somewhere along the line, I bumped into Unity sermons online. I got very intrigued. And then, two things happened in rapid succession. My mom passed, and a very significant relationship in my life fell apart. And I had this hankering for community. I didn't even know what community meant, but I just had this feeling that I needed something beyond online books and so forth. So I lived in Malibu. There's nothing in Malibu. And I Googled Unity. And what did I see? Unity of Ventura. I thought, okay, whatever. And I trot on down, and I walk into what was then the church that's farther down on Main. I sat down. I listened to Reverend Cathy's sermon. I heard Jack Lee at the piano. Becca was singing her heart out. And I was surrounded by the most loving, warm, caring, positive, uplifting people I had ever met. And I thought, I'm home.
Wow.
I've never left. That was in 2010.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is just a beautiful, and I'm seeing it, I'm kind of seeing it here, there's heads nodding. It's like, yeah, we've all got that, right? And there's something in the unity beliefs and philosophy that bring that about and resonate with some of us. So I'm curious, since you have been a part of this church for 9 years, in co-writing this book, what were some new things that stood out for you, or some insights that came forward about unity and its teachings?
Well, interestingly, for me, it wasn't so much new insights, because frankly, I've been at this for a while. Estimation,
Sure.
her ability to storytell, and these are, for the most part, real stories. And I was just blown away by how you can apply unity principles to practically everything in daily life, and it works. I mean, I'm sorry, I am dyed in the wilderness practical, hello,
Yeah.
gotta see it, touch it, feel it. It works, and that was for me the most marvelous unfolding.
Is there any one experience that you had that kind of, or one story in the book that's like, that's how we apply it? Because I love what you just said, Noelle. It's like, it doesn't matter. We can think of big, grand experiences, or, we're facing some huge challenge, but often these principles are best used, right? With the
Daily life.
With the everyday stuff
Yes.
we all have.
Well, I'll give you my all-time favorite because it has in it pretty much all the components of unity that are dear to me. That God is good, that God is everywhere present, that all we have to do is ask, and that God wishes for us the keys to the kingdom, everything. And that is the story of how Tony and Rosa de la Bella met and fell in love. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with this one, but in a nutshell, Rosa de la Bella was living in San Diego, and she came up to Unity of Ventura because she had some cousins here. And she met with the prayer minister after service and went, I need a man. I need a man, a good man. I need a good man. I need a good man. All right, fine, we'll pray together. So they pray. And then the Prime Minister says, you know, Rosa Bella, I think just maybe we could be a little less negative here. Oh, but I need a good man. Okay, fine, I got that point. What you need, though, Rosa Bella, is to be a good receiver. A good receiver. I'm a good receiver. I be a good receiver. Okay, fine. Meanwhile, back in Italy, Tony is moping and groaning and everything. Mom, why can't I find a good relationship? There's no good women here in Italy, etc. And he's driving everybody nuts with all that morning, playing it. And his family, you know what? We have a cousin. Italians have cousins everywhere. We have a cousin in Las Vegas who's opening the Cirque du Soleil. We'll send Tony over there to distract him. Tony, are you willing to go to Las Vegas? I'll go anywhere. I don't care. Okay, fine. So, of course, where do you think Tony and Rosa Bella meet up? At the after party on the balcony outside. They don't know each other. They haven't been introduced. Nothing. And Rosa Bella sees a beautiful pyramid of little green apples on the buffet table. She goes to get one, and the whole darn thing falls apart. And she goes, oh, mamma mia, what do I do? Tony goes, oh, you like a mia. And that was it. True love. But look at all the unity principles in there. Yeah. They both had to be good receivers. They both had to say yes. And I know from experience, and I'm sure all of you know, the road is never nice and straight. The road is zigzaggy, right? But if we're willing to continue to believe that God is good all the time, and just keep receiving, keep opening, the keys to the kingdom are given to us. I love that story. And I love the humor, because all of us who know Reverend Cathy, it's that sense of humor. Yeah.
Yeah, and those, I mean, you could probably pick that all apart. There's the moment of having to make a shift.
Yeah.
That, you know, that's what you're talking about, these everyday principles. It's like there's the moment where we think, yes, this is what I want. But it's like there's that there's always a deepening. And in there I heard the deepening of we have to be open and willing to receive. So prosperity.
Yes.
Right? We talk about prosperity a lot in this church, and there are 10 stories in this book, because it's a really big area.
It is,
Yeah.
it is. And that's why we devoted 10 chapters called the 10 Commandments of Money to that subject, yes.
What do you think makes it so important, this idea of prosperity?
Right. Well, first of all, that if you aren't in unity, you might not realize, and this book is addressing sort of everybody, that prosperity isn't just about money. Prosperity is abundance of all things: health, wealth, success, love, whatever it is. But we specifically zeroed in on money because for most people that's the biggest issue. And that's because they confuse being a good person and being spiritual with being poor. But nowhere in the Bible does it say that at all. On the contrary, the Bible is filled with, it's God's good pleasure to give you the keys to the kingdom, etc. That we should be abundant, that we should be joyous and happy and all that good stuff. And so why 10 chapters is because we unpacked, if you will, the stumbling blocks to prosperity, much like the 4 T's does, right? The biggest of which, for many people, is a belief in lack. Very simple.
And there's something tangible about money.
Oh,
I
yeah.
find. And it gets our attention because it's right down there at a survival level.
Yes.
It has us paying attention to what our thinking is. I'm going to read this quote. A part of what I loved about this book was how often unity principles are talked about and brought up in a way. I guess for me, it's like, oh, I know these principles really well, but there's something about reading a new perspective on it. This one says, one of unity's most important principles is a belief in abundance for all. Love that. In an abundance for all. I'm teaching right now, I'm teaching the 7 Keys class, and we're really honing in on this, that there actually is no such thing as not enough. And yet so often that's where our thinking goes. It goes on to say, we believe that it is God's will that every individual on the face of this earth should live a healthy, happy, and prosperous life. Prosperity matters to unity because we want you to live your dreams, love your life, and live out of your greatness. When we talk about prosperity and unity, we mean being healthy in mind, body, and spirit, having loving relationships, being happy, and manifesting goodness. That's a great big promise. Yeah, but what you said, part of it is to have that, we have to apply the principles.
Absolutely.
And we have to get over their stumbling blocks.
Yes.
So that's a huge one. Another one, I know it's a lot in this church we talk about focusing on the good.
Mm-hmm.
And there's, so tell me a little bit about that, kind of the take on that in this book. I'm going to read a quote here about it because I just found it really powerful for me.
Are you
Yeah, well, okay.
Or I think it's look for the good. I need another quote.
Well, this
Look
is
for the good. It's Charles Fillmore.
This is, Charles Fillmore. And again, for me, I love to kind of take what I already believe and look for some of the roots of it. So Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, stated that at Unity, there is only one code of belief. That's what I love. There's one code of belief, one doctrine, and that is to look for the good. To look for the good in all situations, to look for the good in each other, and to look for the good in ourselves. So in this book, and maybe there's one particular story, what did you learn about that, looking for the good? What stands out for you?
What stands out is no matter what's going on, no matter how horrific, there is good somewhere. And often when we talk about this, people say, well, I was just diagnosed with cancer. What the heck is good in that? I mean, there's nothing good in that diagnosis. But wait a minute. All right, you now have a diagnosis, so you have some clue as to what direction to go in. That's some good. There are physicians who are dedicated to your care. That's some good. You have a prayer team. Believe me, you have a prayer team. That's some good. You have friends or family who are your support, who will love you, who will pray with you and for you. You have your own divinity within that wants the best for you. And if you start focusing on all these things, one at a time or all together, however you wish, what you will find is, energetically speaking, you are amplifying good. Period. All kinds of good. And again, like with Tony and Rosa de la Bella, you don't have to know where that good is coming from or how, especially not how it's coming. But if you persist in looking for the good, it absolutely will come. And there are stories, and I don't remember if ever Cathy tells her personal story of breast cancer, but she went into that situation feeling incredibly good because she relied on the good of all her friends, her prayer team, and all those people around her, and she came out of it very, very well. And the surgeons and the nurses were going, how can you be so calm? I said, well, God is good.
There were a couple of other stories in the book that reminded me that it's a journey, that looking for our good is a journey. Because she talked about, there are stories about people who are in some pretty dire situations. There's one I remember, I don't remember exactly, I think they were from Africa. But in in poverty, and people who are suffering from abuse, right? There are circumstances in life where in that moment, there's a choice.
Yes.
And we can choose to be a victim, we can choose to have the thought that why me, why is this happening to me? And when you choose to look for your good on the journey of life, and this is what I got from reading several of these stories, it's not like life stops giving you challenges, it's that you keep having a way to move forward that lifts you higher.
Correct.
And some of the stories in the book go on, when you keep doing that, that's what I was struck by reading this whole book. When we keep looking for our good, it's like, oh my gosh, what's possible then? What's possible? Because that very highest level of living our best life and our best selves, I think, and I agree with Charles Fillmore, this is the one thing, really the one thing that we need to keep our focus on. And I find stories really inspiring to me. There are times, I don't know about you, Noelle, but there are times when I do lose connection to this is the truth. And I have thoughts about why is this happening to me? And,
sure.
I find that knowing that other people have faced those dark times and been able to find that higher rung is really, really important.
And she does have story after story after story. The book is just jam-packed with stories of journey.
This is why books, to me, are an essential part of a spiritual path, too. I love coming to church and listening to podcasts, and sometimes I just need a story. There's one other element. So I think there's prosperity. There's really looking for good. That's real central to the unity. There's prayer.
Oh, yes.
Prayer is just huge. I'm going to read a passage from the book. This is on page 9. And I read several of the stories. For me, part of my spiritual quest has been to really find the way to pray. I'm going to say, find the way to pray that actually has me connected to Spirit, has me connected to the higher good, because I think we can pray. We can just kind of phone it in. Right, we can kind of say the words of a prayer, but here's what is in the book about prayer. Prayer is the most highly effective spiritual act one can perform. That just knocked me over a little bit. I was like, right, it actually is the most highly effective spiritual act one can perform, because when you pray, you deny that there is power in evil simply by aligning your loyalty with God. So there is an act, and it goes on in this passage to talk about how we can pray for ourselves. We can pray for other people. We can pray for, all of humanity. And it is always that alignment that happens. I just thought that was beautiful. And there was one story. And I've read this story. I know this story, but when I read the book, I read it a few times because it just touched me so deeply. I don't know, and I don't even know why. So I'm really going to be curious to find out if you have some understanding of why. The story of the prayer of Jabez. So how many of you know the prayer of Jabez? It's a powerful prayer. I think it has in it some essential ingredients of spiritual truth that's just distilled right down to its heart. So what is your experience with this prayer? And maybe tell the congregation a little bit about what this prayer means and how it works in the book.
Okay. The prayer is, "Oh, that you would bless me indeed and enlarge my territory, that your hand would be with me, that you would keep me from evil, that I may not cause pain." That prayer has in it every single aspect that we need for our entire lives. First of all, that you would bless me indeed, meaning, oh, God, rain your blessings on me in incredible abundance. Just pour it on me.
I love that. I just love that.
Enlarge my territory. Make me bigger than what I am, than the little me that I think of myself as. Make me the me that is connected to you, the greater me that I know I can be. That your hand would be with me. God is everywhere present, everywhere within me, around me, through me. Stay with me, God. I believe, I am with you, I'm connected. That your hand would be with me. That you would keep me from evil. Don't let me get negative, God. Please don't let me get negative. It's just there, okay? No, keep me from evil. That I may not cause pain. I have a choice. I can be kind. I can refrain from anger or acting out anger, right? I can be nice. I can be helpful. I can be charitable. I can be hopeful. Keep me from evil that I may not cause pain. I say that prayer every single day.
Wow.
Because for me, and it's the book, I mean, she unfolds it and we worked on it, and it's the whole. It's why it ends the book. It's the whole, in our estimation, of what needs to be expressed, what is expressed, thank you God, through unity.
Wow. Every single day. What does that bring you?
Joy.
Saying that prayer every day.
Joy. And also, I mean, most of you guys know I've been through some really interesting things this year. And that prayer, and other unity principles, but that prayer, because it enfolds all of it for me, just reminds me over and over and over. Because we all take our hits. We're all going to get depressed, angry, fearful, guilty, blameful. We're all going to do that, but and feel like a victim. Are you kidding? But we don't have to stay there. And that prayer reminds me over and over and over. Well, God wants everything for you. Wants you to be the best that you can be. And I just move forward with it.
That's beautiful. There's something. Well, I'm seeing it in your eyes right now too. There's just it's from that real truth place that you touch base with that, and I think it takes courage to say that prayer, because it's really, I mean, that's part of what we're here at Unity to do, is to step into our greatness, is to ask. That's what you said in the beginning of that prayer. We ask for our blessings. We really stand and open ourselves, like in the story about Bella Della Rosa, to receive. But it has you be really, really present to God's gifts and the principles, all those principles of unity. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank you, Noelle. Thank you for being here today. I really want to honor and thank you for writing this book and for bringing these teachings to such clarity and accessibility so that other people can learn them as well. Thank you. I appreciate it.